Welcome to another episode of the CarryTrainer Higher Line podcast. Welcome to another episode with my most annoying radio voice of the CarryTrainer Higher Line podcast. That did get annoying. Got my buddy CJ Ortiz, the Metal Motivator. I called you Metal Motivator. On again. Always a pleasure. We just ended up chatting for like 20 minutes. It's an exaggeration a little bit. And didn't record any of it. It was like 12 minutes we were talking. Decided we better start recording.
Talking about
doing, man?
family. Doing wonderful, man. Dude, it's good to be back. I'm honored to be invited back. There's only one other podcast that threatened to bring me back. And but someone that I would put, she's actually a singer and teaches bands and singers how to sing online, how to sell their stuff online and stuff. And she's very successful. Yeah. And a good friend. And but I was on with her, and I guess I see this all the time where like when I started Metal Motivation, I used to say to the guy that I started with, I said, the advantage that we have is that we're not a band, not a radio show, not a magazine, nothing like that. So we're not in competition with anybody who's doing anything within this heavy metal community, let's just say. Yeah. But we are in addition to all of them. So we'll cultivate relationships with all of them because we're the only one of its kind. And so we can be this voice that can be brought in from the, quote unquote, outside. Right. So in her case, she works with a lot of musicians trying to make money with their music online. And so she can bring in this added element, the Metal Motivator, and it just kind of works. And it's kind of the same here, where it's like, well, I mean, he's not necessarily an industry guy in terms of tactical or firearms, but for some reason, again, I've met more and have more now police officers and Justice Department, and the same thing with you, these former operators and ex-military and SWAT and all that stuff. And I had no idea how many of them loved heavy metal. So I think one of the fundamental changes that happened for me was, and this is a tip on the marketing side of things. Okay. Which is sometimes you think you know your audience and you don't, because that has to develop over time. Just as you develop, like as you, compare you on your first podcast to now, you've probably grown so much and so much more, adept at what you're doing. Well, it's the same thing with your audience, it kind of develops over time, and you will start to connect with those you connect with. Now, I started saying, I'm targeting metalheads, right? Targeting metalheads. Well, what I realized eventually over time is not all people who love heavy metal are metalheads. In other words, they don't use that descriptive of themselves. So metalhead is kind of really more those they live the life. They look like me. You know what I mean? And whereas, like, for example, when I compare the view of the parking lot, in other words, the cars in the parking lot from a Metallica concert in 1983, compared to the cars in a Metallica concert at, you name every big stadium in America. Ford Escorts to Lexuses. Yeah, exactly. So, which goes to show you, so in fact, my tagline for my product line on my merchandise is apparel and accessories for motivated people who love heavy metal. So there's a difference between metalheads and people who love heavy metal. Because I could find a guy who looks exactly like you, right, who might work in law enforcement, might be SWAT, whatever, and goes to church on Sunday, has a beautiful, loving wife, great kids, nice house, but every time he gets in that truck by himself, he is cranking Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Metallica, or whatever. Yeah, man. And his wife, she doesn't dig it, whatever, and he accommodates her, but whenever chance he gets, he'll be listening to this stuff all the time. So if you were to ask him, are you a metalhead? He'd have to think about it and go, well, I mean, I love heavy metal. Yeah. I mean, I guess, but he doesn't identify with the culture per se. So if you were to take away this visage, what you see, the hair and all this crap, and just listen to it, you don't, there's nothing I'm doing that's, I don't sound like a professional wrestler. I don't sound like, what you think the metal motivator is supposed to sound like. It's really more in the attitude. It's more in all of that. So yeah, so I don't sound any different than you. And so what eventually happens is that stuff sort of disappears and it just becomes CJ.
Yeah.
So I didn't think of this, and until I met, guys like yourself and Wes Whitlock and Pat Mack, and you guys introduced me to this audience. And so I had just no idea. Of course, after the fact, it's painfully obvious. I've always prided myself in having a keen perception of the obvious. Is that, all these guys, law enforcement, a lot of them love classic rock, hard rock, heavy metal, and the whole nine yards. And so they identify with because the attitude is the same as theirs.
Right on.
They're not necessarily the hardcore, Tony Robbins, that kind of ilk per se. I mean, they're not opposed to it. That's just not their deal. They're kind of more the, daily grind, hustle, get your attitude together, suck it up, that kind of thing.
Buttercup, isn't that how you like to say it?
Actually, Mac does that. Mac does metal up Buttercup. So I'm going to sue him for that because I'm actually working on trademarking the metal up thing because I saw it used in a magazine and I said, okay. Good. I've had people say it to me for the longest time, you should trademark that. And I said, yeah, but I don't want to be a dick about this, man. Then all of a sudden you see somebody putting it on the cover of a magazine. You're like,
hey, wait a second. I should have been a dick about this.
Wait a minute, man. Yeah. So, I'm not going to go after people who use it as hashtags and whatever, but you start trying to sell shirts and shit. Yeah, I'm coming after you like,
That's funny.
Bunch of lawyers.
So this podcast, is, what the theory of it is. It's the higher line, walking the higher path. So I don't want to make it, never was the intention to just have a bunch of operator types. I did a podcast a few weeks back with a woman by the name of Sheryl Hunter.
Right.
Who, it was cool talking with her, first female that we had on. And Sheryl she was a world famous model. She was Coca-Cola's cover model for years. And then all the big magazines, she was in them as a model. Right. And her whole audience is Fortune 500 companies and Hollywood types. So for her to be on a podcast of a firearms instructor, she thought it was fun, but anybody that knows her, she's on all women shows, nothing from this genre. But the dovetail was, as an 18-year-old girl, she was abducted, raped, beaten, and tossed into the gutter by some dudes, and that altered the trajectory of her life. It's what shaped her, but it's fun to plug different people, and I think we get too fixated on what we're comfortable with, and hey man, that's not country music, I can't listen to that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think people don't it's that's a great example. There's this place I go to regularly, they're always playing pop country.
I like country. This new pop country crap.
I can't stand it, man.
Yeah.
It's so corny. It's people sitting in a room trying to think of the most trendy lines they can come up with.
Trendy lines, and it's super synthesized crap.
Yeah, but it's all, they're talking about trucks they don't own, talking about tequila they don't drink, talking about bars they never go to, girls they don't have. But I remember talking and criticizing the music while I was in this place. And they were like, well, people like it. So they said, well, not everything can be rock and roll and whatever. I said, I'm not saying that. I said, if you had a bunch of classic country on here, if I came in here and I heard Merle Haggard, I'd be like, that's killer. Because at roots, there's a similarity. You know what I mean? When you get past all of that, there's a similarity. And so, metal motivation is just, that's surface. But when you get to the core of it, we can sit across the table from a man, woman, or somebody else in a totally different line of work, whatever, and find out, man, the ideas and things are absolutely harmonious. And that's what I'm looking for always is, people, I always tell people, you want to find your place in the world, man. Just don't focus too much on you. Sometimes you just need to look at who needs to be on my left and who needs to be on my right.
Yeah.
And you'll find your place. And, it's like I'll often see people, especially in this line of work, motivation stuff, and I'll see the posts, the memes, you see them too, where they'll talk about criticism. How they turn haters and critics and stuff into productivity, or they use the hate and the criticism as motivation. I'm like, hey, listen, if you're into that kindergarten motivation shit, fine. If your vision is not inspiring enough, if your calling doesn't eat a hole on the inside of you and you need to feed on the hatred and criticism of others to motivate yourself, then dude, I'm concerned about you.
I just had a talk with a young man about that yesterday on a podcast, actually. And that was exactly what was going back and forth. And he's like, yeah, but that's exactly what he said. Like, I feed on it. It drives me. I'm like, but man, can't you love yourself enough to drive yourself?
Oh yeah. No, I wake up every day. It's like we used to say back in the church days, some people wake up with how can I best enjoy life, while other people wake up with the Lord's battle on their minds. And that's where I want to be. I recognize that, we're in an age where we need heroes. We need saviors in a way. We need people who will deliver, people who will set the captives free, if you will. And to do that, you've got to understand the problem that you're designed to solve, and be passionate about solving that for the people that you're the most passionate about. And whatever problem it is you're passionate about, find the people who house that problem you're most passionate about. The people you're most passionate about who have the problem you're most passionate about.
My friend Tu Lam just quoted Sam Clemens earlier today when I was talking to him. The two most important days of our life: the day that we're born, the day we figure out why.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And people they'll say, find your why and all of that, and even then it's just like, okay, well, you got to find it. Really? If you have to find it, dude, it ain't your why.
Yeah.
It didn't take me, Sherlock Holmes, and a team of hound dogs to find what I'm all about.
But there are a lot of people that don't seem to know. I've got loved ones, people close to me, that they're like, they'll talk to me like, you seem to know. And it's like, well, it doesn't. I bounced around all kinds of things in my life, but they'll say like, I'm just doing what I'm doing because it's what I've been doing. I don't really know. Like, nothing is overt that pops in my head.
Right. Well, they don't necessarily need to change that. Because everybody's got their own little gig online doesn't mean everybody needs to have a gig online. That means you. Yeah.
Right. Not you.
we don't all have to do that, because pretty soon what you've got is like, in this one, when I critique my own industry, the guru industry, I'll always say, what the contemporary guru industry is like, especially in the age of social media? It's like a pack of dogs all sniffing each other's ass.
Well, that's kind of like the training industry though, too.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Polite and then behind the scenes though, it's, that doesn't know what he's doing. And
well, yeah, and there's no unique voices. It's a bunch of echoes. So nobody's saying anything original. So, for example, when I see another, like, I'll see these book titles, people will send them to me. Dude, you should check out this book. One's called Yourself, and the other one's
I've seen that one, yeah.
called The Subtle Art of Not Giving
Right.
These are the
yourself.
These are the dumbest titles. These are the dumbest titles ever. I don't want to
marketing, baby. It's it's marketing.
I don't want to read that stupid book, and I'll tell you why. Because 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you couldn't do that. So this is just all cultural reflection. Yeah. It's just you're regurgitating the culture, man. What we don't need more echoes. We need some voices. We need people who are like the Old Testament prophets. The Old Testament prophets were prosecuting attorneys. So like when people, they talk, now we're getting a little theological here, I don't care.
You always do.
They would talk about prophet in the Old Testament: prophet, priest, and king. That was the kind of the three governmental dynamics that you would see. There was the religious order headed up by the priesthood. There was obviously the kingly or the state, by the royal line. And then there was the prophet. So we kind of put the three together: prophet, priest, and king. But in actuality, it's really more, the Old Testament is the story of the priest and the king and all their failures. And you really only see prophets show up when priest or king failed and the people failed. And when they do, they come out pointing at the covenant and pointing out how you violated it and how you've done this against God's law, etc. So they were more like prosecuting attorneys. We need some of that. We need those prophetic voices, if you will, that can touch a thing with a needle, as the philosophers would say. They know how to just, put their needle on it, and they understand the true nature of what we contend with in our particular culture at our particular time. And so, for example, I applaud all the political activists who are doing their part to set the record straight, and it makes great fodder for social media. Right. We all like to share those videos, etc. This is a conversation my oldest son and I had, I think it was yesterday or the day before. And, you can get in this left-right paradigm, but I said, the greater solution long-term is to undermine the pillars, undermine the essential things that make people political animals, whether left or right. Right. So that's what I always say to people, power to the people, the self-governing ones. And, debating about politicians is essentially, I like to say, it's like arguing over which pile of shit smells the most like flowers. Right? It's arguing over which pile of shit smells the most like flowers. Now, I'm not trying to demean all these political, I'm just saying that salvation is not from the state. The state can't save us. It doesn't come from the top down. What you need to be, your enemies are close to your door. And that's where you can be active and operating, in the local magistrate, local communities, these sorts of things, and those who are in your airspace online. And I always tell people, listen, you get offended by anything that I say, I'm just, I'm like, you're in my airspace, man. I didn't put you here. You decided to come in, and you can't, if you get in the ring and put on gloves, don't cry if somebody hits you back. But I think that's kind of where the need is right now. It's just knowing that there are people who are willing to soldier up and be those voices, be those prophetic lawyers, challenge those in your community, challenge your family, challenge those within your digital and physical airspace, and let's get people to be less dependent upon institutions. I don't care whether that institution is state, church, whatever. You need to be less institution dependent and much more principle based, much more family centered. All the things, all the ground of liberty. Go back and read some of the speeches and correspondence of Patrick Henry. Don't just quote, give me liberty or give me, half the people that quote that don't even know he said it. Yeah. Give me liberty, give me death. No, that dude, man.
That whole speech moves you to tears if you read it in the context that it was written.
Yeah, because he was, I'm turning my little thing on here, but one of the things that I loved about Patrick Henry is that he was the one who said, yes, give me liberty or give me death. But he also said, in relation to the Constitutional Convention, he said, I smell a rat in Philadelphia. So he knew what was up. He understood there was constitutions already in every state at the time, and magistrates had to swear allegiances and oaths, and a lot of those were overtly religious. And so, I think people tend to, America doesn't have a lengthy history. Most people don't know it. But the history that they do know basically goes back to the Constitution. So they don't necessarily understand the debates that were surrounding that time. They don't necessarily, understand just what we put in place and what are the foundational elements that we've got to keep pure, and what it's going to take to get that, because it's not going to be arguing the latest gotcha meme about Donald Trump.
Yeah.
That's not going to do it, man. That's just
all we're doing. There's no substance there.
Yeah, we're just lobbing grenades back and forth. That doesn't do it. What you want to do is teach people to be less dependent upon the state. Teach them to stop being political animals. Because
I did
you can be a Republican or Democrat, hardcore, but you're still a statist to me.
I had a discussion. I put a post up the other day. Very unfortunate piece of news about a police officer that erroneously shot a homeowner.
Yeah,
You saw that, the veteran, just so people listening, if they didn't see or hear it, a veteran has a home invasion take place. He shoots and kills the intruder, calls 911. The police show up, and one of the first responders erroneously shot and killed the homeowner. It's all the details that you need based on the context of what I'm talking about. So I share that under the idea of there's more to self-defense and home defense than just shooting a bad guy. So the amount of messages I got from people saying cops, F the police, this is government's problem, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, can you not remove yourself and just realize that there's an extremely adrenaline charged scenario with human beings, a homeowner, a bad guy, and a police officer, all who probably had families, all who were somebody's son, all who were at some point in their life a student, little league kid, whatever. These are just people, and shit is not perfect. And rather than try to make this government's fault, let's just realize this is three people, and how about we be responsible for our actions? So I have this discussion, and people were seething, F that, this is the problem of the police because they don't train enough. So I'm all right, let's deduce that. Who sets the police agencies in any locale? Who sets their budgets? We the people do. So I want a new swimming pool, or I want the cops to train more. I want new roads, or I want the cops to train more. I want better snow plows, whatever, right?
Right.
Or daycare paid for the people less fortunate. So there's only a finite amount of money. So we're trying to talk about this, and the people engaged from the negative side of the discussion just could not seem to grasp hey, maybe we should be responsible for our own shit, which is the reason I brought that up. Yes, we need police. Yes, we need government. But at the end of the day, we're all individuals, and start to be responsible for your own part. But then the other side of it was, if you don't like it, if you want your cops to train more, or you want whatever to take place and whatever the specific change is, go become part of that change in your local world.
No, it's easier to just react.
Yeah,
it's just easier to just
put up some meme that says the cops suck.
No, it's foolish. We had I don't know which episode it was, but one of the podcasts that me and Mac did, I was asking him about that very thing, and he said, the budgets are not there, and he said that he gets a lot of cops, obviously, in his training, just like you probably do, and they're doing this oftentimes at their own expense.
Yeah, just had a young officer took time off, not paid, and then paid for the class out of his own pocket to show up to a class.
Yeah, so I got your hats off to those guys and gals, but yeah, I mean, again, we are in that time period where you think you're doing God a service by going off on your keyboard, instead of being proactive and change, or at the very least, just being a little less trolly. Just engage in reason. Nobody's opposed to debate, but when it degenerates and devolves into just this reactionary, groupthink and painting with the broad brushstroke, it's part of the program. I mean, if we're going to be on social media, we got to deal with this. But
what value does it provide?
It doesn't provide any value. But again, this is kind of what I was referring to in relation to prophetic voices. This is a great example of that. You're taking this issue and you're saying, this is the problem. You don't actually want to solve it. So it's kind of like Naaman when he addressed David. Remember when he told David about the Bathsheba thing, but he did it through a parable. He told him how about the rich guy who took his one little servant's wee little family lamb, even though he had a herd of them himself, and served his servant's lamb for his friends instead of taking one from his big ass herd. And so when David heard the story, he was like totally pissed off, stood up on his throne, ripped his garments and said, "As surely as the Lord lives, I'm going to kill this guy."
But wait, David.
But wait, thou art the man.
Right.
And that's all he had to say was, "Thou art the man." And so David was broken by it. And so that's kind of what we're doing. We're saying, "Thou art the man." And sometimes we're the one on the receiving end of it. Sometimes we need to be told, "Thou art the man." It's not like you and I are on some sort of high horse. But I'm just saying this is understanding the role that we need to play in being social influencers, and not parroting, or as I said again, like the pack of dogs all sniffing each other's ass. Nobody's saying anything unique. It's just a pack of dogs. Nobody's doing anything unique. You're just saying, okay, well, let me mimic the people that I see online so that I can build my little Instagram following and do my thing. It's no matter what the industry is, everybody's doing something like that. And so so here, like, for example, I stand 9 years removed. I started Metal Motivation on Halloween of 2009. And still there's not 100 other metal motivators. So I guess I'm not somebody that anybody wants to imitate. So
sure.
They're not, I'm waiting for somebody, hey, well, just go out and be the blue collar motivator. I don't care. Do something. But they want to mimic what they think is, that's the real selling point. So I need to get all the tattoos. I need to grow the big old beard. I need to cuss a lot and, whatever. And so you see them do this online thinking that that's going to do it. But it's not. I mean, I don't know how to differentiate your camo from the other guy because you're both wearing camo. I don't know. I can't tell the difference. I don't know what makes you better than that guy that I just saw. Fruit, absolutely fruit. And there's, you're an interesting example, because there literally isn't anybody. You're not doing a shtick. There's no, in other words, you're not the metal motivator kind of thing. You're not trying to be a whatever, you're purely just making. Yours isn't really a shtick either. No, it's not. I'm not like Steel Panther or whatever, No, yeah. But in other words, it's your name. It's who you are, CarryTrainer and such. But it's still unique. But you've produced this uniqueness by this constant curating and steady stream of well-produced content. Thank you. None of it ever separated, obviously, from you. You have other people featured in it, and you mix it up. And like I said, you feature these stories of these things that are happening, dangerous things that we catch on security cameras and whatnot. And then your own video, again, all well done. But over time, then, if you want to know what your brand is not what you think it is. Your brand is how people are actually perceiving you. And for me, even though I know a lot of and see a lot of these, former operators now who are, and I'm not an operator, right? But it's making sure people don't think that that's what we're telling people. But when I talk to my kids about guns and stuff, and I'll tell them about you, and I'll say that's the kind of guy, would be great to spend the weekend with, because it's just the motive is pure, and it's just so detailed. He's so in control.
Are you asking to go on a camping trip with me, CJ?
Yeah. Yes. It's a Brokeback Mountain. It reminds me. I did an NPR radio interview a long time ago, and I was debating. The guy was a constitutional scholar, but it was about religious stuff.
Okay.
And so he said, is back during the first Bush term. W's term.
Okay.
And so he said, we're talking about, because this is before, obviously, the gay marriage became law, but it was a big debating point. And so he was asking me all these random questions, trying to kind of corner me. And so I'm the religious guy, so I'm the guy who's the enemy. The NPR host was very polite, though. But the constitutional attorney said, Mr. Ortiz, what are your thoughts on gay marriage? How do you feel about gay marriage? I stopped for a second. I thought, I just said, well, if that's a proposal, you're barking up the wrong tree. And even the ultra liberal NPR host had to snicker at that one.
Funny.
But, it's funny how, people, what you might think is the professional outfit is not necessarily the professional outfit. And again, from watching all your stuff, that's why I'll often use you as a reference point, because again, I don't follow everybody who's gun related, but I see a lot of them now.
Sure.
And I'm looking at it not as someone with this strong interest in firearms, but I'm looking at it as a marketer, as a brander. And it's easy for me to say, man, Mickey still sets himself apart. And it's not, you're trying to do a good job, but you're not trying to, like I said, it's not a shtick. You're not trying to pull one over. You're not using some gimmick. It's just pure Mick.
I appreciate that you see that. I don't know if that's a good thing, though. Pure Mick.
It's a great thing. Obviously, people are very touchy in your community, and so they're going to argue about stuff. But I think in general, I'm sure I'm just echoing I think a lot of people who know you are probably saying amen to what I'm saying, which is why they follow you, is because, it is, it's just good curated content that's coming out nonstop. And so that's the Vaynerchuk way. There's different philosophies. Again, now I'm getting back on the marketing subject, but there's different philosophies about how to build, your personal brand or your business online. And especially in my part of the industry, it's different. You got what they call high ticket people who they're like, I don't give a damn about having 100,000 followers on social media. What I want is those 15 people in a high ticket coaching group, each paying $10,000 a piece, So there's different ways to do that. Whereas the Vaynerchuk way is more the building awareness. So your capital is essentially your audience. And so what you want to do is keep putting out there that great content that builds awareness, establishes your foothold and your brand. And I think, I've done that in a similar fashion. So if somebody was to try to jump on the bandwagon and be Metal Motivator number 2, they've got their work cut out for them. It would be the amount of, and I've seen some people try to do certain things. Yeah. But I go back and check on them 5 years later, and it's still at 353 likes, and because they're not. It's taken me tens of thousands of hours and tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, right there with you, bro.
And so it's like, welcome to the ball game. I can't stop you,
right?
But I hope
there is no easy path to any of this. The funny thing is, and I appreciate the kind sentiments, the funny thing is like, I'll see people that badmouth me, and then and I'm not like creeping on them. Like, somebody will send me something, or my hashtags, like be your own Calvary that's our company motto. I'll see that's tagged in there, And you just like maybe they have a sophomoric understanding of how social media works. So they think, okay, he's getting some traction. I'll just copy all the crap that he's posting, like the hashtags and stuff. So I'll see them that they use it. And okay, one that's flattering that you thought enough to not steal, but try to emulate because it's just words. But they don't understand, like, hey man, people still have to like the shit that you're putting up. Like, they don't mean physically click the like button. Like, they have to really actually enjoy it. Otherwise, they're not gonna like look at it, or it's got to be valuable or educational or comical or something.
I had the same conversation with my oldest, who just put out his first album, which is called the Cats album.
Cool.
Because it's an album completely devoted to cats.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's all this mix of all different kinds of music.
Is it like
No, it's like there's one called A Western Tale.
Okay.
About it's funny as hell. The chorus,
I see like a tail flop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's funny as hell. That one's about two cats who in the Old West.
Okay.
And then he's got one.
What is the style of music?
It's all different.
Okay.
Every song is completely different. And some will sound like kind of new wave. Some will sound like a jazzy groove. Another one will sound like completely something different.
Fun.
It's fun as hell. And some of his stuff is so funny. He talks about indoor cats. He talks about cats being hungry. There's one song about the spray bottle.
Do you guys like cats? Is that you guys like a cat family?
I've always had cats throughout my life, but I'm not a cat. I'm not a anything. I
didn't know like if you guys have like 30 cats in the basement.
No. We just got two more. We just got two little ones that they wanted them. But anyway, no, he was dating a girl for a while, and she had two cats, and he just likes writing music, and so he started to just get all these electronic beats and things and whatnot down and work on his guitar and whatever and start creating these stuff. And so he started to sing, I think, to the cats one day, because they would sit there and watch him in his room. And so he starts making up words for this cat song.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of went from there. And so now he's got this page called the Cats album. I encourage everybody to check it out. And
the Cats album.
The Cats album. So he just so we were talking about his social media presence and whatnot, and hashtags. That's what brought all this up, talking about hashtags. And I told him, I said, hashtags, there's different ways to do that depending upon the medium. Hashtags in Instagram are a lot more powerful than hashtags on Facebook.
Yeah. Because
they use them as search features. Well, a lot of people will just use hashtags as just a way to add an afterthought to a post.
Right.
Sitting here eating with my wife.
Hashtag delicious. Hashtag hot wife.
Yeah. It doesn't. That doesn't make any sense.
No.
It makes zero sense because it's not going to do it. I mean, the value of it is just, again, it's to add the afterthought for entertainment to your audience.
Somebody's not searching.
Yeah, I'll do it. Nobody's going to use these. But if you're going to use the hashtags, then you want to use things that are common search items for what it is that you do. Now, for me, when I told my son, I said, I'll do some of those, but a lot of what I do is I've got certain phrases and things like metal up, metal motivator, metal motivation, motivated by metal, eat, drink, and be metal, metal maiden, my blood type is metal, blah, blah, blah. And so I will fill every single post with all of those hashtags and not be concerned about other stuff necessarily related to the industry. And so I've had another guru ask me, why do you do that? I said, because I know I'm going to become more popular and I want to own that. I want to, so when somebody else tries to use it, fine, that's all great. I don't care.
It's going to pull you, the search engine will pull you up.
Yeah, so other people who go into these hashtags and go searching for them, they're going to see other people's posts in there, but it's going to be freaking bled through with all of my stuff.
I do the same thing.
Yeah, so that's why I changed I do these 60-second clips on Instagram daily, and they're just taken from my coaching group. And so what I'll do now is I'll put, the title for that particular video, and then one particular tagline that I'll say in that video. You know, like, and so like each week in my coaching group, I do a theme, one subject over 5 videos, Monday through Friday in a private Facebook group. So like this week is, you know, something about how to get over your past, the best way to get over your past. And so I'll take clips from those, and it'll all have to do with that particular theme all through the week. And so it has all these titles on obviously the square video that you get in the Instagram feed. So those serve almost a meme-like purpose when you're scanning somebody's channel or profile, or when you're looking through, you know, these hashtag categories, which basically just looks like a list that you would see under somebody's profile. Mm-hmm. And so they can see not just a picture of a guy with a little video camera, because who knows what the hell that's about.
Yeah.
But they see the actual titles and things like that. Like, you know, Mac has just started his Sunday Sentinel sermon, and I keep wanting to do that with his videos, just so I can help them, make them stand out. I may talk to him about it. I go see him next week, but that kind of thing where, like with a guy like Mac and like you, it's the same thing, because I know you're both going to grow. You know, because
I firmly believe that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're relentless. You know, and yeah, I mean, it would be easy, very easy for me to see you as a regular feature on whether it was yours or somebody else's reality show. Did you have that kind of personality? You know what I mean? Mm. You're just able to dialogue. You're able to interact. You're great in the moment. Like one of the things that I love about your videos is when you're talking to your students, you know, and you're asking them questions. You say, okay, now what is this? What's the first thing that we, you know, and it's just funny. I mean, some of it is funny. Some of it is kind of sarcastic. Some of it is dead serious. And the way, obviously, you're being filmed has that reality show quality to it. So it's easier for me to say, yeah, it's easy for me to see that guy on a reality show. It's easy for me to see Mac on a reality show.
I don't know if that's my dream or goal to do that kind of a thing.
No, not that you have to do that, but what I'm saying is that we are in that reality age.
I see.
So you can have that same sort of effect within the 60-second framework of Instagram or what have you. So in other words, it will have greater viral power because it's meeting those criteria. It has a storytelling aspect. It has a character aspect. You know, you become the hero in the story. And so in that regard, you know, I mean, what you gave us was a 60-second story from one of your classes, from one day, one morning, from one of your classes. But we saw what that moment was about. And so you brought drama to it, you brought story to it, you brought a point to it, there's an objective to it, there's a moral objective, the moral of the story. So that's all, you know, again, whether it's intentional or not, there's a brilliance to it. And I think for that reason, you know it's going to go viral. So it's important, I think, that you think in terms of how people are going to interact and engage that content for the first time down the road. So that's, again, why I changed the format of my videos, because if they just see my face with a little video camera, they don't know what it's about.
Yeah.
What are they going to click on it for? So, you know, you want to, like with Mac, if you know what Mac does, if you go back to Mac's profile, you'll find out it's not very long.
Yeah.
Because he constantly goes through and cleans house. And he bases it on what people are the most interested in. And so he'll start cleaning out posts that might be a little repetitive or whatever. So he keeps it very tight, very clean, very condensed. Because he's thinking about people who are coming to it for the first time.
Yeah.
Because he knows he's getting these new followers. So to take people back into the kitchen to show some of the discussions Mac and I have about his brand, every time I'm over there, I get, that's me. If just as to tell people something a little bit about me offline is,
please do,
is that I'm a marketer at heart.
Yeah.
So what activates my abilities or whatever is seeing somebody else who's very dedicated to their vision or mission, you know? And so
I derive some great enjoyment from that same type of analyzation of.
Yeah. So
listen, talk shop, because I've been doing it for 20 years.
You're just ready to, you're ready to contribute to something.
Yeah.
That somebody's talking about their vision. And so that's easy to do with yourself, easy to do with Mac. And so whenever I go to Mac's house, I'll be setting up for the podcast and stuff while I'm talking to him at the same time, and he's like, hey, want to try my new soup? He makes incredible soups. And so, but I'll be talking to him about his stuff because I'll see what he posts and the magazine articles and whatnot. And so I start thinking about his brand.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a conversation about a month or so ago. And I was telling him, I've been telling him for the longest time, I said, I know your bread and butter is the gun stuff in terms of, what you do on a weekly basis. That's the bread and butter. I said, but what takes you globally, bro, is the Sentinel thing, which is his,
it's a great book.
Be the agent in charge of your own protection detail. I said, because that's something that applies to everybody. Yeah. And I said, but in order to grow it, you have to take the price point off of it for right now. So I was telling this to my son yesterday, who, when he did his Cats album thing, he launched too quickly. And so he's disappointed with some of the results. I said, no, it's okay. I said, because what you've got now is a great marketing tool for Cats Album 2 or Dog's Album or whatever else you do. Okay, you've got a great album that you can use to build an audience with. Reage the social media. Audience is capital. Yeah. So I said, Mac, Sentinel is your capital building. That's where you build the extensive. That's where you're going to start getting grandmothers following you. They're not going to follow you because you lift kegs over your head or one arm a barbell or, shoot with a body over your shoulder. They don't care about that. They're going to come because of the Sentinel issue. So I'm talking about this, and then the last time I was there, I said, dude, I've been thinking, man. I said, you know what you should do? Because he used to do the Sunday heavy metal sermon. So he would find some videos, but then Instagram gives you such shit about copyright. So he just said, Mac's like, I'm not going to bother anymore. I still post that stuff, but Mac's like, I'm not going to bother with that. And so I said,
I forgot he used to do that. It's been like 6 months or a year.
Yeah. So I said, dude, you know what you should do? I said, you should do, because we do a Sentinel segment in all of our podcasts. Okay. And so, but they're obviously much more lengthy. I said, but if you could take some of these things that you talk about and condense them to the 60 seconds, like how to leave a house. That's one of the things that tripped me out. He actually changed my point of view about that. I live in a very, very safe neighborhood, cul-de-sac, in the woods, blah, blah. But that don't mean shit. Nope. And so he did one segment where he was talking about how to leave a house and how he does it. Checking windows as you walk out, looking left and right, blah, blah, blah. You're, check your 5 and your 25 and, And so I said, that's such a simple thing. But just these simple things of awareness. Again, Mac will always tell you, I'm not trying to make people paranoid. I just want them not to relinquish their instinctive, awareness. And so, we don't live like common animals do. Common animals that are, especially those who are in the prey category, are always looking. They're always in predator, being aware of predators. So how they camouflage themselves, what they do when they come out, they're they're always aware of predators. We need to be that way without being paranoid. And so I love his Sentinel segment. So I said, dude, if you can condense these things, to 60 seconds, not cover the whole how to leave a house, but cover one aspect of it. Or how to, all that stuff. And I said, because I can see people who follow you, who maybe shoot or lift weights or whatever. I could see them going, you know what? I'm going to show this to my wife, to my kids, to my grandmother, to my friends, whereas before they're not showing your other stuff to them. They're not showing you lifting kegs and all that crap. So, it registered with him instantly. He goes, I know exactly what to do. He said, I'm going to call it. He's doing it. Yeah, I said, I'm going to call it the Sunday Sentinel Sermon. So he posted that first Sunday, and he hit me up, I think the next day. He said, dude, that thing rocked. I got 3,000 plus new followers in one day. It's awesome. I was like, dude, So he's just been keeping doing it. And so, but he does that to then realize that he's going to get a lot of new people. So he's thinking, all right, well, what are they going to see when they get to my page, when they get to my Instagram profile? So he puts that kind of thought into, this is somebody who hasn't really been on social media very long.
Yeah.
But he's got, like yourself, he's got those instincts, very natural to it. And so he's not putting out the level of content that you or I do, but because of the Delta mystique, those guys can just pop their head out of the window once and get 1 million people following them. You know what I mean?
That's true. That's true. So Pat, if you hear this, it's not because you're awesome.
Yeah, it's not because you actually suck, dude. Mac's great, and he is unique amongst them because in the area that he lives in, there's a lot of unit guys out there, and I often talk to him. I said, the unit's been around for a long time, and a lot of those tier 1 operators, man, they disappear into the landscape.
That's part of their culture.
Yeah, and so it's rare that you get guys like Mac, you know, and there are other guys, Bob Keller and my mind went blank. There's a bunch of them.
Kyle Lamb,
yeah, and they're all great, great guys, and they all do their thing in the shooting community.
Larry Vickers.
Yeah, Mac is a little different.
Yeah, Pat's a very interesting dude from the sense of like he's got the personality and the makeup that he'd do well doing pretty much anything. He's the guy, not to take anything away from him, but if he never left home and worked at the local auto parts store, he'd be the guy that when you came in to pick up your brake parts, he'd be like, "What up, dude?" And he'd be like, "Yeah, I love going to the auto parts store."
Yeah, and of course, being with him as much as I have, especially at the personal level, obviously you're seeing now more dimensions to them because people kind of see him. That's why they always make reference to the Macho Man Randy Savage thing because he does.
Right.
So it's no stretch for him to imitate Randy Savage, but when you're with him, just the one-on-one, and we're doing the podcast stuff. He's still that guy, but he's a very creative soul. And so there's an artistic depth to him that I don't know how common it is amongst operators, whether they're SEALs or Green Berets or unit or what have you.
Sure.
So, and you see that with him. You see all the drawings he does and the music and all that. And so I think that puts some added dimension to him that, again, where like yourself, it's easy to see how you guys are going to grow.
I'm not comparing myself to him.
Well, I am.
Oh, well, thank you.
Because
the interesting thing, let me interject something here. The interesting thing though, like Pat, you, me, name 50 other people that have social media followings. My son today is with me. He's 19 going on 20 and he shows me something. He's a young man and the name of his Instagram page was something skinny neck. And this was his name, not mine. The kid clearly had some kind of birth abnormality. He was he looked emaciated. I'm not making fun. This is his shtick. And he does these he's shirtless and he probably weighs 70 or 80 pounds. That's how skinny he is. Hundreds of thousands of followers. And it's him just doing crazy hillbilly shit. He's got this thing my son shows me. Him and his buddies are sitting on the porch and he picks up the phone. He goes, "I'm hungry." All of a sudden a car pulls in the driveway and it's this guy named Gucci Berry. Okay, look that up, at Gucci Berry. Okay. Let's see. Let me tell you how many people, just for the sake of, so I understand. And I'm not insulting anything. This is. I'm getting to my point. Right. Let me see. And where's he at? Are you looking it up?
Yeah.
I want you to see it. Gucci Berry. Where are you at, boy? Now, Gucci Berry.
Gucci as in like
Gucci, okay. Gucci Berry. So Gucci Berry's got 157,000 followers. Gucci Berry. If you click on the first, this is Gucci Berry. Let's see if you can see that here.
Is it Berri or Y or what is it?
It's the Gucci Berry.
Oh, okay. In case you confuse with somebody else.
This is just telling of, I mean, here's a picture of him in his underwear, probably a 400-pound man. There is a tattoo on his chest that says the colon crusher.
Oh, my God.
Uh-huh. He's got tattoos on his face. He's got the sweetest mullet. Did you find him yet?
Yeah, I found him.
Look at his mullet, dude.
Wow.
So my son shows me this, and it's just like some goofy, off the wall, and I'm not going to lie, I laughed my ass off one of the things he showed me. It was hilarious and stupid.
Right.
But so here's like 500,000 people between these couple guys that are watching them just, you're just fixated on it now. You can't help it. It's like watching a bus crash.
It's like watching a train wreck. But obviously very comfortable in his own skin.
Yeah. Here's my point. So, like, we're talking about Pat. We'll talk about Pat. Pat has like 100 and some odd thousand Instagram followers, right? That's a lot of people, but on Instagram, that's nothing. I mean, there's this dude that's just I'm going to be rude, a fat naked guy that has more followers than Pat McNamara, who passes on physical fitness that could save and change your life, shooting skills that could save and change your life, mental well-being in you know what you do, things that can reshape your life to propel you to anywhere you want to be. But yeah, man, that like takes work, and I got to focus and pay attention. I'm gonna watch this fat ass who's got a tattoo on his stomach that says colon crusher. And I mean, what the
yeah, I know.
It's just so telling of like, we're not going to ever have that, and that's not me being negative. There's not going to be that same penetration into the populace because not that many people are looking for what we're selling, what we're offering, what we're providing, and that's okay with me. I just know that there's like those that check out what you put out there. There's like Pat's got so much stuff that he puts out that's just like, wow, that's pretty cool that a 50-year-old dude's picking 100 pounds up with one arm and doing the other physical he's got some people that are just like, wow, got the wow factor. But that my point is just that's you're not going to have that same, it's not I don't have a bikini on and some big old boobies and all that stuff. So there's a lot different, a big difference in the audience, the available audience.
I remember back in the late 80s, I was a part of a church
cult.
Yeah, part of a church in Carrollton, Texas, and great.
So we could be talking about a cult right here. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Great senior pastor, awesome guy, and the teaching was amazing. Mm-hmm. There was only about 350 people in the church. Now, down the street, not 3 miles away, was Robert Tilton's church.
Oh, Bob Tilton.
Of course, the farting preacher.
I was going to say, well, I remember what immediately pops into mind when people say Bob Tilton, and most people have no idea who we're talking about, was he did all those satellite broadcasted. People come sit in your church and they bring a satellite dish and put it out in the parking lot and broadcast it. Yeah. And
so his church was 5,000. He had this massive TV ministry going, and before the big ABC News expose of him and Swaggart and all that stuff. But remember, I was in a thing, some meeting that was being held, and my pastor was there, and someone had asked him, because man, all the content was so great at the church,
from the church, that church that you attended.
Yeah. And so they said, Pastor, how come we're not doing as well as Bob Tilton's church down the road? And my pastor said, well, I guess it comes down to what you're trying to build. And so years removed, that church is still going. And now they're umpteen thousands upon thousands, a beautiful, massive cathedral and tons of satellite churches. And Now he's even got a whole thing he's doing now on the political front in Washington, D.C., man.
Cool.
So, and what happened to Bob? Bob's still doing stuff, but he's in some obscure remote corner of the world doing it. And so it does come down to what you're trying to build, because I'll have people say that to me all the time. Dude, how come you don't have millions of followers on Facebook? I've got 100,000 plus. How come you don't have millions of followers on Facebook? And I said, number one, because I'm selling responsibility. That's the first thing.
Right.
I said, but the second thing is that you have to recognize that it doesn't necessarily have to do with the importance of what you offer and how well you're doing it. Sometimes it has to do with the timing. And
could you say the timing? The
timing of it. And so when the time comes, you want to make sure that you're ready for it. And I said, my thing is, I'm not a peak performance. I'm all about peak performance, but in terms of my expression online, it's not about peak performance. I don't get people who write into me and say, CJ, dude, I need to get a couple strokes off my golf game. Would you work with me? I don't get people saying, hey, CJ, I need to bring my sales numbers up 10% in the second half of this year. Would you help me take that performance to the next
I know where you're going with this. Keep going.
Right. So I'm going to get people who are dealing with issues and life, relationships and debt and whatever have. So, I recognize that I'm suited more for that. And so as times will change, then the frivolous stuff will start to fall away. Pretty soon people won't care about this fat guy that we just mentioned. I remember we used to be critical of the fact years ago that heroes in society were artists and thinkers and great leaders. Mm-hmm. That's what we celebrated as, they wouldn't use the word celebrity, but those were who people knew about. That's what they knew about.
Yeah.
Then we would criticize how what was popular was like athletes and actors. Now, it's like the guy we just looked at. And that's no shame on that guy. He's just having fun.
I've got no ill feelings towards him at all.
It's a free market, man. You can do whatever the hell you want. But what it tells me is not
telling.
Yeah, it's very telling about what the marketplace is like. People like a lot of trivial bullshit.
Yeah, people are not. The market always drives the products. Like if I've always thought it comical when people like look at what buyers or consumers are getting, and they think like, freaking evil corporations. Like I got a friend that always busts Walmart's chops, selling all this Chinese bullshit. I like, they're not selling Chinese bullshit. They're selling what people want, cheap goods that they can buy on any street corner. Like that's not Walmart. That's not the Chinese. The Chinese are producing it, or whatever Asian country, because you want it. I want it. The guy down the street wants to go in there and buy a roll of toilet paper for 99 cents and buy these things. Like that's the consumer. It's driving it.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is all the kind of criticism.
It's a window into the soul of man.
Right, exactly. And I think a lot of people that are free market aren't really free market when push comes to shove, because they will bring up that issue. And you have to be prepared for the fact that the free market may not go your way.
I'm going to grab something. Go ahead. Keep talking. I just want to grab something behind me because it's part of this.
People may not like, the very things that you like, and they may buy, something made in China. I just got a new car, and it's a Nissan Murano. It's not American, but I mean,
I bet you it was like assembled in Kentucky though, or something.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Because now with all the trade laws, they're doing that. Check this out. This is a friend of mine. I didn't intend on doing this. His name's Mike Jarvis. He owns a company called Auxiliary Manufacturing. There's a bunch of guys that make cool knives. I commissioned him to do two blades, this one and one that he made for a friend of mine. And it's really special because the friend of mine was moving away. He's important to me, so I made two, one for me, one for him, and I'll see him again, but it was, kind of like a going away gift. It's not super expensive, a couple $100.
Right.
But it doesn't do anything any different than like the $30 knife I can go buy from the hardware store. It's got a sharp edge and such. And another buddy of mine thought it was such a waste such a crazy amount of money to spend. But it was like, to me, hey man, a guy I know made this with his hands, sourced this stuff. I sat there and watched him like do grindy, polishy things. Like, that's meaningful to me. But to the other guy, it was totally stupid. And didn't see the value. So like that whole, like, what is valuable to us? McDonald's is shit food to me. Yet they sell gazillions of burgers because people want that shit food. Yeah. Right. So we are not McDonald's, you and I, which I'm okay with. I will never be McDonald's. I am.
You're not even Mickey Donald's.
No. But like even I'm not even Pat, but like, guys, a lot of the people that are in our sphere on social media, and this is not an insult to anybody, are little tiny fish in a big sea. Yeah. And it's not because our message isn't important. It's not because we don't excel at what we do. It's that there's just this guy's never going to sell this product in Walmart because there's only 1 in 10,000 people that even want the thing. That was my point. Yeah. And that to me is it's not a sad thought. It's that I identify, here's the people that have what I have to offer, or that are interested in what I have to offer, what you have to offer.
Yeah, I would be concerned if I was too popular. Because I'd have to ask myself why. Because I know I'm selling responsibility. And, there's just not a lot of takers. The great thing about the social media thing is that you can build your own little, audience.
Yeah.
And
we're not talking about little numbers.
No,
my father had a radio program when I was a kid that broadcast like the county, like FM radio. So there's finite distance that goes. And that was before before you could stream that, because there was no internet then. So maybe there was 5,000 people or something that tuned into that Christian radio station and listened to his. It was called the Sound of Victory broadcast with Mike Sheryl.
Right on.
Yeah. And like, my dad would love to have 60 or 70,000 people have listened to that, like that now you and I can do with this type of platform. But I don't know where I was going with that. I'm just saying, like, it still is a great reach.
Oh, yeah. If you've got a business going or something, and if 1,000 people, it doesn't have to be the same 1,000 people, but if you got 1,000 people spending $10 a month with you, that ain't chump change.
Here was the point I was going to make. I talked to my friend Tu Lam earlier, and Tu talked about his background, special operations. Tu came from Vietnam. After the fall of Saigon, his family ran from the communists. He watched his family butchered in the streets. The North Vietnamese communists were running out of bullets. So to save bullets, they were literally just wrapping plastic around people's faces to suffocate them, to not waste ammo. So he escapes, ultimately, fast forward, makes it to the United States and becomes a special operations soldier that spends 23 years freeing the oppressed. And we talked about this like turning point where not only did he make a decision to do that, but long story short, a person made the decision to rescue him and his family versus leaving them in the open ocean to drown. And this was after, by the way, the Indonesian Coast Guard took this boat full of like 100+ refugees and drug it back out into the open Indian Ocean and shot the engine up just to let these people go adrift and die because there was refugees flooding. So a Russian freighter comes upon this boat, which this is communist Russia at that time. These people have compassion, save this family. So the actions of that boat captain that decided to rescue these kids helped a man get to America, or a boy get to America, become a man, and this person ends up spending years freeing the oppressed people of the world. So you like never know what little action you may have, the far-reaching impacts of both good and bad. That was kind of the context of that discussion that we were having. But like talking about us here, man, you impact a few people in a good and positive way, you can frickin' change the course of events.
It's, because of my religious background, I am always in conflict with the moray of my industries. Because some of the most, here I sit, long hair, skulls, the whole 9 yards, and I'll look out at some of the gurus, marketing gurus in the industry, and they're all polished and well-dressed and driving the Lamborghinis.
You're talking like the Tony Robbins and
the Tony Robbins types, yeah, and whatever, and not even those who are that well known. They just charge a buttload of money for what they do.
Good on them.
Yeah, good on them. But when I look at because I understand the marketing process that they're doing and the funnels that they're creating, it's pure manipulation. It's absolutely, they have what they call a principle called scarcity, which is this product is not always going to be available, and it's only going to be available for this time, and we won't open the doors again for this till next year, so you better get in for this, obnoxiously high price. And so instead of just saying, no, this is the course I created, and it's always for sale, and it's always going to be, we might run a discount here and there, but it's always available. Mm-hmm. No, they get more people if they produce this false scarcity. It's digital material, asshole.
Yeah.
How can it be scarce?
I've got a friend that does this. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to, but I'm involved in it from a consumer standpoint. Like, I'm like, all right, I'll be one of your beta testers.
Right.
It annoys me. I'm like, dude, you really feel people are stupid? Because that's what he does. Like, sign up. Like, I get the emails, like the next product that he launches. Like, we're only releasing X amount of codes to be able to join the club. And it's like, I understand because it works for him. He makes a lot of money. Then people like, oh, I better hurry up and buy it.
Yeah, I mean, and the return rates are actually pretty high because people are, it's an impulse purchase and they regret it, and within 24 hours they'll try and give it back. But I, because of the background, I'm in conflict oftentimes with this, and so I realize that the most important thing that I can be, whether it's career or family, whatever, spiritual, the most important thing that I can be is faithful. Nobody's looking for anything. Your wife's not looking for anything else from you. Your kids aren't looking for anything else more from you. God's not looking for anything else more from you. And your community that you reach is not looking for anything else more from you. What they want is faithfulness. And so it's hard for me to marry the idea of faithfulness with schemes. And so these people are all dressed and polished and all their stuff is all neat and they look like the most ideal citizens. But when you peel the veil back, man, you're dealing with there's some shark shit going on in there. You're manipulating people. You are. That's the essence of marketing.
Yeah.
And so for me, I have to say, well, why am I not doing better? Well, because I'm not doing a lot of that. That's one thing.
Well, first of all, do you have that conversation with yourself? And what does better mean?
No, I do have that conversation with myself. And for me, better is just is
a deeper penetration, more.
Better for me is performance more than it is what anybody sees as my actual physical, tangible, whatever. My thing is, was I faithful to my gifts, calling, and ability today? Did I do what I set out to do, and did I perform at my absolute best? I'm just figuring that if I focus on that, the rest was going to work itself out, in the sense that my goal or objective is to always be developing. I see my personal history more like I don't see like typical people do in my industry, which is you're setting out there's a goal out there that you're trying to reach. And so this is our target. We're getting real specific with this goal, and we're going to, we got to get in as much detail as we can, and we're heading that way. Well, life will throw you curveballs, new opportunities. You never know. You got to be flexible. I plan in pencil, man.
Yeah.
But the way I look at history is not this endpoint I'm trying to reach. I look at my life more like a New Year's Eve party favor. The one that you blow and it rolls out. It's more like that. In other words, as I'm faithful to constantly fulfill the obligation I have to myself, which is to maximize all that I am, all that I can do for the purpose greater than myself, constantly developing, constantly focusing on performance each and every day. Life will more unfold, that it will reveal itself. And what becomes more important then are relationships like this with somebody like yourself. What becomes more important is the opportunities that appear. People say, what's your 5-year plan? I said, I don't have one. My whole life, my whole life plan comes down to 2 words: seizing opportunities. That's it.
I'm down.
So I'm always doing what I'm doing to be as faithful as I can, to do the absolute best that I can. But because of that, it attracts, right, the right kind of people. Because you wouldn't have me on the podcast had we not had our conversations, but you wouldn't have the conversations had we not seen each other's content and said, yeah, that's the kind of, he's not half-assing it. So that's the kind of person I want to talk to.
Right on.
So what is it? What's the Bible verse that says, see a man who's great at what he does, right? He will not stand before obscure men. He'll stand before kings. So
I don't remember that one. Where was that at?
I don't know whether that's a psalm or a proverb. I think it's a proverb. So being good at what you do is going to usher you in to the right circles of influence.
And just so our listeners or viewers understand what you're saying, you do have goals, because otherwise you would just jump at any opportunity like, hey man, you want to go swimming? Okay. Like I got work.
Well, I'll put it this way. My goal is not to be a multimillionaire. Gotcha. If I was a multimillionaire, would I complain? Absolutely not. It's just not my goal.
Right.
If that was my goal, then I would respond to every Tom, Dick, and Harry involved in a network marketing scheme who keeps hitting me up. And they say, dude, this is lawful. It's not a pyramid. It's this. It's fine. I said, listen, I quote Romans, all things are lawful, but not all things are expedient. So yeah, it's lawful. I'm not breaking any laws, but it's not expedient for me. It's got nothing to do with my calling, and I'm motivated by calling. I'm not motivated by the money. I'm motivated by mission. I'm motivated by purpose. I'm motivated by the call that eats a hole on the inside of me. The most important thing that I can do with my gifts, talents, and abilities, in which I'm the most difficult to replace. That's my focus, not the money. If it was about the money, there's 1,000,001 other things I could do. I don't have to do what I'm doing.
That older I get, to interject, is definitely when I was younger, or age has nothing to do with it. When I had less wisdom in the area and life experience and had been kicked in the dick less times. And you'd hear people say like, money isn't everything. Money can't buy you happiness. It's like, that was always like, it gave me the same sense that like love yourself did. Like, what are you talking about, dude? And the older I get, the more that I've experienced in life, good, bad, lost people, none of that stuff matters, man. Money, I live in a beautiful home. I've got a beautiful wife. We've got lovely vehicles with air conditioning, and I've got a sauna that I can sit in, and I don't live in any kind of crazy place, but like we're the top, you and I and the people listening, if you've got a thing like this in your pocket, you're like the top 1% of society. I can walk to the sink here in my gun room and spray clean, fresh water, that many people in the world don't have. Right. So just starting to come to like the realization, I'm not just coming to that, but coming to that realization that all the stuff doesn't matter. And yeah, like you just said, having some more money, I think, what would I do with it? Like I have I might, like I don't need, there's like 8 TVs in our house that nobody watches. Right. I don't need another TV. Would I like have some crazy car? Probably not, because then I need a bigger garage and I don't want to move. Maybe we go on another vacation or 2 a year, but we do go on vacation. So it's like we eat what we want. And I'm sure there's some people listening that don't have that. I didn't always. There's times that I had the gas shut off, the water going to get shut off. I've been in that position in my life too. So just to make sure that people are understanding what we're talking about here, that stuff doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter. And again, I want to be faithful and, well done, thou good and faithful servant, right? Well, I want to be faithful, and faithful to what I feel like is the mission that needs to be accomplished, faithful to the gifts and talents that I'm wired with. I have abilities that other people don't have. You have abilities that I don't have. You have interests, that I don't have. Your only obligation is to yourself. Your only duty is to yourself, is to maximize those things to be the very most that they can be. So in order for me to maximize my ability, that takes a tremendous amount of devotion, time, and energy. So I would consider it an embarrassment if I knew the differences between different Ferrari models. For me, but I know I got a very good friend of mine, Metal Mike, he's got 2 vintage Ferraris in his house, in his garage, and his whole garage. I mean, you could eat off the floors, and he's got he's got cool. Vintage Ferrari mechanics. What do you call those things?
It's his thing.
He loves that stuff. It's a passion about him that he has. And when I was taking pictures of it, I'm like, dude, we need to post this. He goes, no, I don't post the cars. So he's not for ego. It's something that genuinely,
it's just he loves it.
Yeah,
and that's totally cool. Yeah, nothing wrong with it.
That's great. But I see that's a difference from people who are on there who are using this, like the Ty Lopez guy who became famous. Just standing in here in my garage, his videos would be all over YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Just standing here in my garage and in front of my Lamborghini. But you know what I'm really excited about? These books. Dude, you're never going to justify that horse shit, okay?
People probably bought the crap out of it.
Oh, he's rich as hell, man. Like there's another one guy named Frank Kern who's comes across as a super, super humble, sweet, nice guy. And very helpful.
You're name dropping like crazy too.
And I think it's great. But then he started doing some videos on Facebook as an experiment. I knew he was doing a marketing experiment. He was acting like it was just all natural. But dude, he's a marketer and he's doing something. But anyway, would be walking. He goes, well, it's just a typical morning for me. And my hair's all disheveled and whatever. You know what I mean? So he starts walking around and dude, it's a freaking mansion.
Okay.
I'm not talking about mansion in the your places. Like I'm talking, it's a literal mansion. So he had, it was like family. It was like, here's our living room, but here's our TV room, and here's the family room, and here's the study. But this is this is the library. I mean, there was all of those rooms, and it comes out into this Rockefeller-like entrance and whatever. I'm just like, you lost me right there, man. You lost me right there. Why? Because he broke a law? No, he didn't break a law. It's just your scales are out of balance, bro. I would consider it an embarrassment, personally. Again, that's my value system. I don't hold that over his head, but that's my value system, where I'm just saying, no, because what's important to me is that I maximize who I am, calling, whatever. So, yeah, I could talk to you all day long about philosophy, history, theology, anything related to exactly to what I do. But if we're going to, I think if anybody heard me and then they were to come out and visit me and they saw a 8-room, 10-room colossus that I lived in and 7 or 8 cars, and it was just me and a chick living in it, I think they'd go, that is not what I expected from the Metal Motivator. For some reason, I expected, what, you expect something bigger? No. I expected a whole lot less. Tell me what you say. I expect, based on what I hear from you, based on the type of person that you sound like, I expected a whole lot less. And I would say, yeah, because what am I going to do with 25,000 square feet?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't make any, I would rather
There's nothing wrong with somebody chasing that dream, but to me, it just doesn't end anywhere good.
No, it doesn't. I mean, you're not taking it with you. It's the old saying, right? You're not taking it with you. I mean,
but I've got clients that live like that. They spend time worrying about maintenance, insurances, and it's just like, so you've got it for what? Like, even where we're at here, the house that we're in, there's rooms that we don't go in, and it's not because it's so big. Kids are grown, So it's like we started talking about like, let's maybe downsize. It's like less time that we're going to spend vacuuming floors and painting decks and stuff, and we can go on more walks. And
yeah, exactly. Here's a microcosm of it to better understand what's at play. Talk to the average person, and I have, who has a pool at their house, and a lot of them will say, wish I didn't put it in.
Yeah. It's like buying a boat or.
Yeah. It's
we
like.
Got a hot tub here.
Yeah. And people say the same thing. It's just maintenance, man. We maintain it. We put more thought into it than we actually get out of it.
Yeah.
You have these pictures and visions of your kids and doing all this stuff, but once you get used to it, it ain't no big deal anymore.
Right.
So, and then people start to regret that investment. So again, it's no crime committed, but you learn that you are always going to be under this moral question about what you're going to do with your life, what your ambitions are going to be. And we do what we do because we feel like we gain something from it. And like we said at the outset of this conversation, talking about critics and haters, to see people online saying that they use criticism and all this and haters as fuel for motivation. I don't understand that. I'm driven by what's in my heart. I'm driven by, the needs of my family. That's motivation enough.
Yeah.
I don't need a hater to come into somebody who's a hater is not going to motivate me more to do what I do than my youngest, my 20-year-old daughter, who's getting her bachelor's right now. And then,
do you get much of that? Do you get people that comment like, you're an idiot?
No, that's one of the funniest things about what I do, that because I expected I was going to get slammed for the past 9 years by trolls. I thought I was going to get slammed. And I've had people comment on videos, especially on YouTube is troll city, as we know.
Oh man, I get some hateful stuff over there.
But I don't. And there's a few videos where people have left comments over the years and say, you know what, the funniest thing, CJ, about your channel is that there's never any trolls. And I think I think anybody who takes any time to listen to what I'm saying and the demeanor that it's being said in and all of that, it's not that there's not something to criticize. It's just it's
hard to attack. It's like,
you would sound stupid.
Would you like a warm cookie? It's like you're offering something kind, and I get, because it's people, a lot of times it's like, oh, that tactic that you're teaching is stupid. It's from that ego.
Oh yeah, that's going to be the same thing for like musicians and and anything that's trade oriented. Now if I was online doing a shtick, talking like a wrestler, or I was being very opinionated, or very derogatory, then it would. But I think what happens is people start to listen, and very quickly they are like, where's he going with this?
Yeah.
Because it's interesting. I haven't heard anybody talk about this particular thing before. And so they're like, well, I may not agree, but I mean, this is not somebody I want to slap. I just
right.
Not because he's weak or anything. In fact, he's strong. I dare somebody to do it, because I mean, I've been doing debates, theological, political, and philosophical debates since the 90s, and so I've been at this a long time. Not doing the motivational thing, but doing the academic stuff. So this is old hat to me. So when someone does fill their, I see it more on Facebook. When they try to say something, my girlfriend will say, that's when I love to get the popcorn and just watch, because I know that the majority of the people that I'm talking to have not done what I've done.
Yeah.
It's like shooting fish in a barrel.
Sure.
I mean, it's like, you're welcome to debate me. I invite it. I just bring your game, because if you decide to do that, I'm going to do it. I am going to come after you So
like
you're not.
A friend of mine, Matt, says, if you try to hurt me, you have to touch me. And if you touch me, I'll touch you twice as fast and twice as hard.
Yeah, no, yeah. When it comes to this, when it comes to intellectual debates, yeah, I'm going to come after you. And
you go Ben Shapiro style on their ass.
Yeah, and you're going to run. You're going to run into a cave. I'm going to chase you into the cave. I'm going to flush you out with a flamethrower. We're going to get you isolated, finally corner you, shoot you.
This is all metaphors, people. Yeah. We're not being serious.
Remove your body, and then come back and dust the place where you once stood.
Nice.
I mean, it'll be that committed to the ideas and whatever it is I'm contending for. But most people, you know, they're used to, it's one silly person talking to another silly person. It's one person who hasn't engaged in much debate in their life and talking to another person who hasn't engaged. Now you're going to engage somebody who's been doing this for 25 years?
Right.
Dude, you just...
Yeah, you're not thinking.
It's like, I don't know if anybody heard this story. It was on, I think, the last episode of the Metal Excellence podcast that I did with Mac. And so Mac goes to see Slayer with his wife, Rebecca. And so Mac is down relatively close to the front. And he's having the time of his life. And there was these big guys who kept coming down and messing with some little security guy. It's just nothing more than a gatekeeper about trying to get through. And so they're blocking Mac's view. And so Mac just starting to get more pissed off. And so finally Mac goes up to the guy and says, hey, you know, go sit down, whatever. And the guy did not like that. And so Mac kind of put his hand on him.
Uh-oh.
And the guy's just going to rear up, and Mac tells him, you don't want any of this. And the guy apparently wanted some. And Mac, boom, 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 that dude went down like that. And
I didn't hear this story.
Then Mac said after that it was a total melee for 45 seconds. Beers are flying, everybody's coming over because guys next to him who were seeing what this guy was doing were trying to come in because that guy had friends and his friends were coming in. So Mac's like, no, I got it. So I guess it all, you know, eventually got broken up. But it's like that, you know, I mean, Mac can be intimidating, just, you don't have to know anything about him. I mean, he's got that look in his eye and, you know, he's obviously got the physique and all that. But still, people don't know what you're about to get into. You're talking to a guy who trains like this, not just lifting weights, man, but I mean everything from jiu-jitsu to boxing and throw the sandbag, jump over the thing, throw the ball up, then punch the punching bag, then throw some kicks, and then shoot, you know, whatever. Mm-hmm. You're dealing with somebody who's been doing this his whole adult life. He's going to beat the shit out of you.
It's funny how often something else, the older I've got, I've learned, man, you never have any idea, not just from a badass standpoint, but looks can be deceiving, age can be deceiving. I know a guy that's worth millions of dollars that lives like a pauper, and he's got nice stuff, but like not to his means. I had a friend over the other day that's like top 100 pistol shooters in the world, and he's telling me a story about he and another guy who's #1 in the planet for pistol shooting, USPSA, are at like a mall or something, and there's some douchebags, concealed carry guys, kind of talking tough to them, and both of these guys were armed. One of them's top 100, the other is the #1 practical pistol shooter in the world. They're all armed, and these guys like start talking like we got guns on us. And the two dudes like looked at each other like, you know, like, you have a good day, children, you know, and kept walking. Like they had no idea that they were talking to the dude that literally is like the gold medalist for shooting faster and more accurately than anybody in the world, standing in front of them. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's always better just to diffuse something, man. It's always better to be polite, suck it up, and
it's not
live to fight another day, man. There's no sense in seeing things escalate because crazy.
But that came up though, because you're talking about people engaging. I brought up the haters because I use it sometimes. There's certain people that I will engage with, like if people write stuff, because I see it and it's like, hey man, somebody else is probably thinking what this guy wrote.
Right.
And he's just the only one that had the sack to write it, or people maybe saw what he wrote and think, like, is that a valid point? So I'll craft a response usually, and it's not anything hateful or incendiary. Like, hey man, like, it's interesting you think that way. Here's my counter to it. And if the guy just like wants to continue, I'll just be like, I got nothing else to say. God bless you. Or I'll just delete the shit and block them immediately, depending on the nature of it. Like, fuels me. Nah, I'm just gonna say like you're a vile person. I don't need you in my sphere, and you can go away now.
Yeah, I can tell if somebody, didn't watch a video. They just went by the title. They're familiar with the page, and they'll accuse me of something or whatever. And I say, well, they obviously don't know. And by the attitude of their response, the reactionary response for something that they just saw, which is not directed at them nor intended to be antagonistic towards them, this is not the kind of person I want in my worldview anyway. So delete and block. It's just this approach. Don't even engage them. You don't have to correct their spelling and hurt their feelings. None of that stuff. You shouldn't need to do anything.
That's funny you keyed in on that. I got a sort of friend, and that's like how he'll attack people. Like he wants to just like gut them. Like somebody will write something and have misspelled a few words, and then he'll correct them and then be like, you illiterate idiot. Like, dude, you just made that guy hate you forever. You could have, for years, I took it as like a challenge to try to get people to not apologize, but in a way, like try to get them, okay, I'm going to like try to coax them through nudging, and through peace, like, hey man, okay, sorry I said that. I'll get messages from people. Usually they don't do it in public, but they'll send a private message or an email and just say, hey, I'm sorry, I was that guy, dipstick123 was my handle, and I was kind of being an asshole. I'm sorry. Like, hey, cool, man, no big deal. Like, go write that in public, you coward. But
yeah, right.
I don't say that, but I see that a lot. What you just said, people, they want to like, not you wronged me. I perceive you wrong. You hurt my little ego so much that now I'm going to make fun that you didn't use a comma on the right spot.
Yeah, it tells me more about that person than it does the initial person they're engaging with, because that's. I used to challenge people to always be the big brother, and just imagine the whole world are full of little brothers.
That's a good way of looking at it.
Your little brother's going to do some little brother stuff, and he's going to spill his juice on his shirt. You don't slap the shit out of him because he spilled juice on his shirt.
You idiot.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You wipe the stuff off his shin. You squeeze, give him a quick hug and say, head out back with your friends, buddy. And he's going to run back out the door because that's what he does. He's 5, But you don't, because what you're saying is I'm determined by these things. And I think that's a huge mistake. And again, it tells me about you. Insecurity.
Oh. Yeah, and that's what you just said, man. Imagine if we all could work off of that premise. Even 50% of the time, be a big brother. Like, hey, that's pretty good shit right there. That's a good one. I'm gonna remember that.
Yeah, it's part of. I think it's the mark of maturity, man. The mark of maturity, in essence, is responsibility.
Mark,
right? It's where you raise your kids to be mature, which means you raise them to be responsible.
Right on.
And so the responsibility is more than just taking care of property or things. Responsibility is more than just showing up for work or getting your work done. Responsibility is character as much as it is anything else. And to know your responsibility as a human being. If I'm going to make the world a better place, that's why, again, the success definition I use is to maximize all that you are, all that you can do, for a purpose greater than yourself. So if that's not there, then you have no reason to develop character, because you can get what you want, success in life, without doing that. Backbite, manipulate, whatever. You can do, lie, cheat, steal, once you take that morality out of the issue. So if you're going to serve this greater purpose, then that sense of moral responsibility is a given. And you would hope it would be your primary thing, because, and I think we might have talked about this in the last interview, just that issue of reciprocity. And I think people do things so that, you know, they're going to be nice so that they'll get that in return. And it's a common thing, you know, be nice and people will give it back to you in return. I don't give a damn if they give it back to me in return.
Yeah, it's a motivation problem.
Yeah, I'm not being nice because of you. I'm being nice because nice is right.
Yeah.
And so I want to be faithful. Again, I'm faithful to the principle of rightness. I mean, you know, to the principle of kindness, to the principle of compassion, to the principle of whatever. I'm faithful to that, like a law, like a commandment hanging over me. Doesn't matter that somebody doesn't. It's like the old prophets in the Old Testament. God would always tell them, don't look at their foreheads. Told Ezekiel, told Jeremiah, don't look at this is what I want you to say. Don't look at their foreheads. What did that mean? In other words, a furrowed brow. When the audience is looking at you like, what the hell is this guy saying? So it said, don't pay attention to any of that. It has nothing to do with the response. It has to do with representing to the max the mission and message that you represent. If you represent the mission, you represent these principles, you're going to have authority. You substitute yourself and your manipulation and your defense mechanisms and all your crap, then yeah, your ego, you're going to digress in authority. You're going to have to do a whole lot more shit to establish your authority because you sacrificed it. Whereas if you were just cool from the outset, nobody would have ever questioned that. They would have just said, they would recognize it. Like yourself, you have, it's recognized authority. You don't go around telling everybody you're the expert. It's proven. You know, somebody will look at what
I might be an
expert. Yeah, an expert. We can change the date. He is the expert with the indefinite article. An expert. Small a too. Small e in the expert. And no period. We'll just do ellipsis at the end because it's kind of open to question. We don't we don't know what Mickey's going to put out next. It may blow this whole thing. But I think you understand the point is to just say, no, man, I'm responsible to the principle. And so I'm going to do what I'm going to do to and for people, expecting nothing in return. They don't have to do anything for me.
That's character. That's having some ethical code.
Yeah, that it doesn't. And the greatest beneficiary is me.
Yeah,
because I don't lose any sleep over it.
That was exactly what I was about to say. I want to lay my head down at night, and as many times I haven't, because I knew, man, I didn't do right today. I didn't, you know, not even like I didn't try hard, but like I did some shit today I'm not very proud of, or the way I reacted or behaved. Like that's you could be in a nice house and still lay in bed at night and not sleep.
Right. I mean, that's why, you know, man, I'm quoting a lot of Bible.
Yeah, you are. You got something going on inside you want to talk about?
Yeah. It's my confessional.
Yeah.
The scripture talks about God being close to him who is of a broken and a contrite spirit. And I think we need a little bit of that when it comes, because we all do and say things we don't mean to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we get in the moment, and that was my quote this morning. I posted on my Instagram, which was, frustration is when you lose sight of the big picture and you get trapped in the moment. So, you know, a mom can get very frustrated with her little kid, you know, misbehaving and whatever, and just yells at him or her. But then on another day, he plays in his first little 5-year-old soccer team, you know, and he's the cutest, most wonderful thing in the world. Or she's up there doing a little dance recital. And you can see the vision of her future and how wonderful she's going to be and how glad you are. But well, you were screaming at her not an hour ago. Why? Because when you're in there watching the recital of the soccer game, you got a clear view of the big picture. You know, it's my son, it's my daughter, and I love them, and look how well they're doing. Can't believe they're 5, and the future's ahead, and they're going to be great. I'm going to do everything I can for them. In the moment, when they do what they're doing that pissed you off, you lost sight of all of that. So imagine if they did something while you were in that moment of perspective. Would your reaction to their whatever they were doing be different? Sure it would.
Yeah.
So if we don't walk in this sort of awareness and be that broken, contrite type to say, okay, if I do something to a spouse or whatever, like I remember with my ex, she was little Bo Peep. I mean, and everybody adored her because she was super sweet. And she is and was. But with those types, there's an internal stubbornness oftentimes where they will hold a grudge really deep for a very long time. Whereas for me, I was always more like the bull in the china shop, you know? And so I would offend people quickly, and I would, you know, have the reactions more quickly. And so people would always tend to think, well, he's the more problematic one. She's the nice one. No, because what would happen is I might do something and anger someone else or say something hurtful, but I can't live with myself 5 minutes afterwards. I'm like, man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. I don't want to go to sleep with this. I'll clear the air. I'm very quick to repent, in other words. So again, God being close to the one who's broken of a contrite spirit. In other words, it doesn't mean he's close to the one. If you're close to the one who is broken and contrite, that means they mess up a lot. You know, the expectation is not to be perfect. The expectation is to be broken, contrite, repentive, change. Someone who will quickly make amends and quickly fix things and come back and say, you know what? I shouldn't have said that. I want to take that back. Or I want to apologize for that. Let me rephrase. Let me say what I really meant to say. I got emotional. I got nothing to save. I got no ego to preserve. Yeah. I've been on the earth for 52 years, man. I mean, I don't know at what point that part sort of died. I'm sure there's stuff still in there. But I know that the older I get, the less I give a damn. Now I know why. You know, when you were a kid, your dad could be out there watering the grass with old college shorts on, his white undershirt from his business attire from the day before, black socks, and his work dress shoes.
Yeah, just didn't give a shit.
They didn't give a shit. You're like, right. you're embarrassed as hell because you're hoping your friends don't drive by and see you.
People could kiss my ass.
Yeah, but dad didn't care. So at some point, man, I don't know what it is, at what age you get to, but you start caring less and less.
Yep, that started happening to me recently. I was talking about that, the what becomes important in our life begins to change. That's what it is.
Yeah, you just don't
realize all that shit doesn't make you sleep better. Worrying what people think or how they view you doesn't pad your bank account.
No. Yeah. And these are verities, man. These are truths. These are things that are absolute. They don't change. The world changes. Culture changes. Technologies change. Industries change. Countries change. Borderlines change. Genders change. But the things that don't change are the things that we're talking about. And so I always want to be rooted as best I can in them. Because they're the unchanging things, but they're not necessarily the most popular things.
Right on.
So, you know, I accept the fact that I'm not going to grow at this particular time period on my social media platforms based on these things. I will have growth, right? It will be solid growth, but it'll be slow, you know, for the most part. Because how do you say, hey, listen to this? Listen to the second 2-part interview Mickey and CJ did. You know what I mean?
People love that interview, man.
Did they like it? I guess that's why I'm back, right?
Yeah, people did like it. Well, you know, we're talking about things. I am very fortunate. We are very fortunate that the people that view and listen to the things we're talking about are the same type of people that we are. And while you're not telling me anything I don't know, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, we say things in a different way. Like, always be a big brother. I'm the oldest boy of 7 boys. I've got 4 sisters and 6 brothers. Like that resonates. I've never thought about that. I'm going to trademark that.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. But no, like that right there, like that was worth 2 hours of my life today just to hear that. I mean, that's something that that when we can pass that kind of stuff on, then it does make a difference. So yes, having you on is valuable. And of course, that's why we're doing it. And I like looking at you.
The feeling's mutual. I think that this is such a wonderful liberty that this technology affords us.
Hell yeah.
It's the new thing, and more time is being consumed now with this more than anything else. I've been hearing, I did podcasts years and years ago. They weren't obviously as popular as they are now, and I didn't think they would become more popular, especially after the whole video thing. But they are becoming more and more popular.
I'm not a podcast listener.
It's a passive thing.
But I have so many friends that tell me, like, I'll get messages like, who's up next? Because it's like their drive to work, they listen, or on their jog, or somebody sent me, they downloaded like 10 of them for a road trip. Like, that's super cool, but I don't do that. That's not my thing, but other people want to.
You watch fat guys with mullets. That's what you do.
Gucci Berry.
Gucci Berry. The Gucci Berry.
That's funny, man.
My battery here is about to give out on my computer, but
yeah, I've got to kick it too. We've been at this for 2 hours, so
I'm not surprised.
If you guys are not already following CJ on Instagram, he is Metal Motivator.
Yeah.
On Facebook, is it The Metal Motivator?
On Facebook, it's just facebook.com/Metal Motivation.
Metal Motivation.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's easy.
Or just punch CJ Ortiz into the Google, and I guarantee all of that'll come up.
I'm the only Ortiz. That's like Smith in Spanish.
If you punch, let me just see what happens right now. Let me see what happens when I punch CJ Ortiz into the Google. Let me see. CJ. Just with this. Let's see. First thing that comes up is your mobile telephone number, because my Google's attached to my contacts. Right there, man. There's your website. There's the some products that you have available. Here's videos. The Twisted Conservative meets the Metal Motivator. And then here's your Facebook page, and here's a Pinterest picture of you.
What's the Twisted Conservative thing?
I don't know. It's a video of you, Jason Vaughn. The Twisted Conservative was back in October of 2013.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Looked like you did an interview with a young man.
Yeah. I remember.
Yeah. So Google him, CJ Ortiz. You'll see tons of content, which sometimes is better to do than just going to the page, because as you've already discussed, people remove things. There's stuff archived in different websites and stuff. And your podcast is called
is the Metal Excellence Podcast, which I host with the Pat McNamara, Metal Mac, as I like to call him. And that's been awesome. We're about to do one. Which was a smooth marketing position that you did, by the way. Yeah, I mean, I told him about the podcast, and I said, I was out drinking with him, and I said, this is what I want to do, called Metal Excellence. He goes, oh, dude, that's cool. We're talking, and it's about something else. Came back to the subject. I said, you know what, dude, you should be my first guest. He goes, absolutely. So we did it as him as the first guest. But it ended up being such a great conversation after. I said, dude, man, I want to have you back, but I'm thinking this might work just as a co-host. What do you think? I'm thinking Mac's going to say, dude, I ain't got the time for this,
Yeah. You guys probably knock a few of them out at a time?
No, we just do that one. No, because it's Mac. He's just like, all right, well, I know that there's no time frame necessarily. So he'll get what he's got to get done for the important stuff, training and whatnot, done before I get there. And then I get there kind of early afternoon. And then it always takes us forever, because we'll do an interview and then we'll do our other segments afterwards. And then by then, to him, you may have heard him say this, every night is Saturday night and every morning is Monday morning. So once we're all done, he's like, time to drink, man.
Yep. Let's go get a couple pints.
So we're going off to the pub.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it ends up, plus he I'm driving a long way to go out to beat it at his house. So he's not going to, I mean, there's sometimes when he's got other stuff to do and I'll just bolt. But no, we just kind of do it. Plus they're spaced out. We do them like once a month. And
okay. Yeah, it's work, but it's a labor of love.
But I'll say this, I am going to be starting another podcast.
Another one.
That's called the Market Head podcast.
The Market Head. I think I saw you.
Yeah. So that's going to be kind of the stuff we talked about with social media and branding and marketing and all that. Cool. That's going to be about that. And so there'll be no co-host for that because no one's qualified. No, I'm kidding. But it'll be much shorter, much, 20, 30-minute kind of stuff. And
gotcha. But not 2 hours.
No, but thank you.
We'll leave it at this. We'll get this one posted up, and I'm sure in the future we'll do it again. I'm going to leave everybody with your thought. Always be a big brother or a big sister. Unless you're a girl that wants to be a big brother, then that's on you since it's legal here in the good old U.S. of A.
Yeah, big brother doesn't expect anything in return from little brother. He's just going to be a big brother because that's what big brothers do.
I like it. CJ, thank you for your time.
No, thank you.
If you guys are listening here on Instagram, listening on YouTube, viewing on YouTube, hit the like and subscribe button. Pass this stuff on to your friends. We do feel, as you've heard, if you've listened to this, that this stuff is useful not only to you, but to others. So push the stuff out there, share it. Don't just say it, do it, live it. And metal up. Ugh.
Metal up.
Adios, amigo.
All right, buddy. Take care, man.
Peace. Visit our website, CarryTrainer.com, for information about classes held throughout the U.S., CarryTrainer apparel, and upcoming projects. You can also email us at training@CarryTrainer.com for information about setting up your own private course or speaking engagement. Training@CarryTrainer.com or CarryTrainer.com.